Hello and welcome to the Being Human podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Bottaro, and today I've got a married couple, Adrian and Shaelyn, who have gone through the CPMAP certification. Shaelyn was a marriage and family therapist. She got her degree at Divine Mercy. She got a great Catholic graduate school education. And then she wanted to go deeper into integration and ultimately mentorship. And then her husband was so inspired by her journey that he joined her. And now the two of them are working as mentors, helping people. And we're talking about family wounds here, their marriage, how they've discovered new things about themselves and their marriage that they've been able to work on and work through and bring into their work. And especially as we are coming up on Thanksgiving and the holidays, we are obviously talking a lot about the kinds of things that happen in family life, and family time celebrating together is a mixed bag sometimes of joy and beauty and goodness, and then also challenges. And a lot of times throughout the year, we bury some of these challenges, and they seem to all emerge around this holiday time from Thanksgiving and through Christmas. And so what do we do about it? How do we look at these things? How can we approach these things with a deeper level of grace, following the call that Jesus has invited us to pick up our cross and follow him? What does that look like in the real world, in the mess of family life? And so, we're talking about a lot of those things here. Hope this blesses you. Adrian and Shaelyn are a blessing, and I'll be adding to the show notes here the podcast that they're going to be working on. They're launching their own podcast, and they're also building out right now a course on family dynamics and learning how to process proper boundaries and working through things like enmeshment and all that fun stuff. But there are really healthy ways to navigate these things, and there's hope on the other side of the challenge. So I hope this blesses you, and keep us in your prayers as we continue to truck along following our call in living out this vocation. God bless you. I spent the last 10 years learning how to help people using the best techniques available in psychology integrated with the Catholic faith. Now we've figured out that there's a better way to help people than just slapping a Catholic label on the same secular model of therapy you find anywhere else. The real question is, how will we make this shift to a new model of truly Catholic accompaniment, keeping the psychological sciences in mind while opening up to a more human and more effective approach? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as I take you behind the scenes of what this new model looks like, using recorded audio from sessions working with my team, with colleagues, and even directly with clients. My name is Dr. Greg Bottaro, and I want to welcome you to the Being Human podcast. I am with a married graduate couple. I'm really looking forward to having somebody meet in CPMAP and then get married. But you guys are our first married couple to come through CPMAP and graduate and now be working as professional certified mentors. But I think one of these days we're going to have, we're going to have to do some matchmaking and we can see love. Maybe sparks will fly in the program. I don't know. A lot of emotions fly in the program, but I haven't seen sparks yet. Those kinds of sparks. I don't know if you have in your, we won't name names or we'll talk about confidential small groups, but
we
you
can
guys
see which parts match up, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you guys came in already. Well, Shaelyn, you came in first.
Yeah.
And maybe you can give a little bit more background of sort of where you're coming from, what you've studied and done beforehand, what brought you to CPMAP, and we can go from there.
Yeah. So I studied, was a licensed professional counselor. So got my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
Did you drop your license or have you let it relapse?
Yeah, I have
or
let it
lapse.
We moved states, and so I just didn't transfer. I just haven't gotten my license in the state that we're living in now, and I just don't know if I'm if I will or not, if it's will be necessary. So
Yeah.
my journey was interesting. I'd say I'm a bit of a seeker and never fully satisfied, which I guess is kind of the experience this side of heaven. But I started at a Catholic university by name, studying mental health counseling, and quickly became very, very disheartened and disappointed with the education, and a little bit worried, honestly, about the what was happening there. And so I transferred to Divine Mercy University, where I studied and finished and completed my master's, and was really happy with my education there, but still felt like there was something missing. Like, still felt like there was something more that I was hoping for or looking for or wanting to be able to pursue in my work, but I wasn't really able to name it. And then I happened to stumble upon, I think, like an Instagram live that you were doing with another therapist, and got to hear about your kind of musings at the time. This was like in 2018 or 2019, maybe.
Early days.
Early days. And I just remember sitting in that conversation, feeling like my heart resonate so much with what you were saying. And I just remember feeling like, oh, I have to be a part of what this is. Like I this is exactly what I couldn't put my finger on, and I couldn't name that I was looking for or hoping that walking with people could actually be. And so I sent an email to you, and I said, I don't know what you're doing, but I want to be a part of it. And then I got in the first cohort. And the rest is history for me.
The rest is, well, we're here to unpack that history. So
Yeah.
it'd be a boring podcast episode if we ended it right there, but we'll go a little deeper. We were promised personal, and actually we're talking about this is getting released around Thanksgiving, and appropriately so. You guys focus a lot on family wounds, which happen to emerge a lot of times around the holidays and getting together with family. Sometimes that can be challenging, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times things that we carry throughout the year kind of emerge to the surface around Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays. And so, I want to dig into that a little bit more. But you were actually working in training as a marriage and family therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I guess, so let's bring Adrian into this. So what were you doing before, Adrian?
So I bounced between two areas, essentially. I started off in education. I worked as a public school teacher for about 4 years. I worked as a Catholic school teacher for about another 3. I absolutely I loved teaching. I loved the relationship aspect, particularly, looking back, I had this memory of talking to someone even, and I look back at what my biggest concern as a teacher was, and my goal was always, look, I'll take care of everything else. We'll do the learning, we'll do the teaching, we'll do all that, but I want to create a place of safety in my classroom, and I never want to tell my students because I said so. I want them to understand why they're doing what they're doing. When I think back to what that means in context of my, how I grew up and how I was wounded, but also what I valued, I was always kind of building up to that. I just, for really, really practical reasons, I transitioned over to medical software, essentially training. And a lot of people say, I was like, oh, you get to be kind of like a teacher. It's like teaching light, isn't it? And it was like, it's like teaching extra light. It's like going from IPAs to maybe not PBRs, but something less hip and a little more, to PBRs to like Duffs or something, right? So anyway, yeah, I eventually, as I met when I met Shay, and we got married, and she was doing her work. This was kind of in this, like, the whole spirit of our marriage was around this one question of, okay, I've met Christ, or for me it was, at least I think I have. And so now, like, now what? Is it okay to still be wounded? Is it still okay to be upset? Or do I have to be just good, and do I have to fake it? Like, what do I do? And in the past, in the past, I did a lot of theological study. I went to the Augustine Institute. I took almost a full master's degree course load, strictly because I was like, I just want to waste my resources on the kingdom, if that's what it takes, to prove that I'm worthy,
Yeah, I feel like a
and
lot of
so
people probably can relate to that. A lot of people are in
yeah,
that boat, and
yeah,
there's beautiful to study theology and to learn. I mean, that's kind of our aim. Like Saint Augustine says, to understand God more and to understand ourselves more, and ultimately to be able to love Him better and with more of ourselves. But then we find out there's like different parts that are operating there as well. It's never like pure. We're not 100% pure intentioned.
yeah, and I gained so much, and part of what I wanted was a change. I wanted formation. I wanted community, or I wanted to want those things. So I put myself in those situations, and I received so much. I received more what I could have. I didn't even understand what I was even receiving, or what I was trying to earn at the time yet. And so once Shay got married to me, she started, she started revealing all these things to me about, like, well, what about you? Like, what do you want? What do you think about? What do you think about this? And the more we talked about her work, because I refused to talk about mine, because I found my work, I just wanted to leave it there, and I didn't. So I
Mm.
look at it, I was very, very disintegrated, but I was also just continuously inspired. And as we started talking, and she was in her initial work as a therapist, she kept saying, like, you really have a knack for conceptualizing. You really have a knack for seeing things. Have you thought about this? And I said, no, 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 no. I'm gonna put my head down. I'm gonna do the next thing. It just means the world to me that you can do such meaningful work. And if I can be a part of supporting that, then great. Just put myself on the cross, and you know, and over time, I softened up. Shay told me about CP Map, and normally with the first cohort and this new thing, she had just finished school. We were just kind of planning our next phase in life. We're gonna start having kids, and my normal default answer to something like that would have been, "Come on, let's just chill out." But oddly enough, I said, "Yeah, absolutely, do it." It was very unlike me. And between Shay sort of saying, just being so excited, and saying the thing that I found to be true, that we kept in our education and in the experience of it, even before I started the program, finding these things that we always felt to be true somewhere inside of ourselves to be true. So I was sort of doubly educated. I was exposed to the levels quite a bit before I started through her. Once I got to a point in my life where I saw the change in her so much, and I saw the change in our marriage, um, there was just no denying. Like, there there was there was no choice but to respond, and the rest is a continuously rough and interesting and challenging and faith building and healing path. So
That's awesome. And you guys, what kind of sacrifices did you have to make to jump into the program?
Oh boy.
not much, not much beyond selling our house, moving to another state to live with our or in our in-laws' backyard for a year. Still insisting on going whole hog. So we had another baby. I continued to work full time. I continued to go to school full time. I tried not to take breaks, and I was encouraged to take breaks when I really needed them. Suffered a lot and learned a lot. And really, for me personally, obviously, I think it's coming through. I worry about finances and I worry about those kinds of things. Um, I still kind of marvel at how willing I was to it really wasn't me. How willing I was just to say,
Let me
let's
just tell
do
you,
it.
I marvel at what you guys were willing to do. I mean, if there's anything that pushes somebody to really believe in what they're creating and being a part of, it's like when other people are willing to sacrifice and jump in and join. It's like when I heard that you guys were going to sell your house and move in with in-laws, it's like, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? And it's like, then you're like, are you sure? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm putting a lot on the line. But when other people put stuff on the line, it's like, wait a minute, this better be the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and just to be clear, not in with, but next to. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. You're right. Good
but I won't lie to you. There have been moments, and I'm sure there will also continue to be moments where there will be that pestering feeling of, hey, I put so much in, I deserve something back. And it has taken even courage to admit to occasionally, wanting that or wanting that validation. But just a continuous learning that it's never quite what you expected, but often it's different and better, and you just couldn't have really imagined what was in store for you. And kind of been returning to that a lot lately.
You want to go a little deeper with that? In what ways?
Well, number one, even when we moved, the sort of plan in my dream was, and I had this conversation even with you. I was really worked up, and I think you were kind of like, oh, all right, well, good luck. As in I said, I'm really excited to quit my job and just go full in on this program, and I'm just gonna study and I'm gonna work and all of that. And then we sort of did the math and crunched the numbers and talked to our financial person and also realized well, we could commit to living in this situation for a long, long time. But maybe this isn't the wisest thing ultimately, and maybe I've got to put in a little bit more work than I wanted to, and maybe I need to be present to this job and what it offers me, the one that I even don't want, and also just continue to acquire resources. So I had this impression over a year and a half ago that I would quit my job or find something part-time. That never happened, and it was really hard. And then I had the impression that I would continue to just do 2 things at once, maybe 3 things at once, 4 things at once, and be a dad and all of this. And then I also experienced, once I made this decision, I could do this, I can just work as hard as I possibly can, and all of that. Then I experienced a layoff, and then I got the freedom, and then I got the full panic that comes with that. So it's, but so yeah, careful what you wish for, and you get what you need, but you get it not necessarily on your own time. And that continues to be a big fear for me. I like a little bit of control. I like to have a plan. It takes me a while to pivot when things change on me. Be it when the weather changes and I had a plan the day before, or something bigger. And so that's something that I'm constantly going back to, that part of me that is learning to be more flexible, more adaptable, and ultimately might even extend my life a little bit if I just continue to learn to adapt and receive rather than try to manage it.
Yeah, that's a big curve. It's a learning curve and a journey to let go of all that control. Shaelyn, I'm curious for what it's been like for you, sort of inviting Adrian into this with you, walking with him, being part of this. Obviously, as a family kind of going through this experience, like multiple levels there are in terms of your experience. What's that been like for you?
Oh, it has been, I tend to be ever the optimist, and see what could be rather than sometimes what is. And it gets me into some deep water sometimes. But it's been hard. I think that I always am like, oh, it'll be great. And it has been, but not ever really in the way that I envision it will be. Yeah, it's been challenging. And I think in the best ways. I think that in my head, I have like sometimes this fairy tale idealistic vision of like what it's going to look like for me and Adrian to build this business together and to be mentors and to minister to people and to have this family. And we're going to be able to have our chickens and our cows and we're going to homeschool and we're also going to have this business and like it's all going to just work out. And the reality is like that's possible, but there's also like a lot of like finer details that need to be worked out in like working up to that vision for our family and like what we want. And I think I always get surprised that it just doesn't happen. Like these things take work, and the things that like the roadblocks and obstacles that we hit along the way. Sometimes like I get frustrated and I'm like, these are getting in the way of us getting to like our final destination. And so it's been a work for me to see those obstacles and be grateful for them because they're helping us, like they're forming us. They can form us into, the people we need to become in order to live into that vision and to like where I feel like the Lord is calling us in our life.
Yeah. Can you give me, think of maybe a specific example of like some of that bumpiness that you've had to work through? And I can imagine, both experiencing sort of the inside of CPMAP and the being able to apply these like really abstract concepts of the human person. Like, where has that just become real for you in your marriage?
Yeah. I think like it's interesting. Like in our marriage, me and Adrian tend toward the opposite roles, like typical roles that people might play in a family life. That's been really hard too. I think coming up against, especially on, like everywhere on social media, it's like enter into your soft feminine and like the guy needs to be, like taking charge and like doing all of these things. And I come up against all of that. And I have my own parts that are like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Like we're doing it wrong. We need to reorder the way that we're living our roles in our family. And I think that's been a roadblock that I've constantly come up against, being the person who has kind of spearheaded this whole like, hey, let's start a business. Let's do this. The person who's had the vision, the person who made the first like risk to join this cohort and to do that. Like, and Adrian has, followed his prompting and his, spirit to enter into this with me. But sometimes I feel like I'm pulling him along and rather than, and not trusting his own, that he has his own will and he's choosing to do this. And so there's kind of that inner conflict that I come up against of like, am I forcing something or am I allowing myself to be moved? And I think, and like to take out of the abstract and into the practical, just like figuring out like, okay, if we want to have this family where we keep our boys at home and they're around us and we're not, sending them off, but yet we're both working and we're both doing this. Like, what does that look like? And Adrian kind of like naturally tends to, he's an incredible cook. He's like chef level cook, and so he does a lot of the cooking in our household, and he tends toward those types of things, whereas I tend toward like more of the business mind and getting these things structured. And there's a part of me that's like, but wait, you're supposed to be doing these things. And like, that's the conflict and an argument that we find ourselves in sometimes too. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be the one like taking on the risk and doing like those parts? And aren't I supposed to be the one that's like nurturing and cooking and cleaning and like, yeah, filling those roles? And I think we still come into conflict. And I remember we listened to a podcast not too long ago that triggered those same worries and concerns in me. And Adrian was like, he had to like slow me down. And he was like, remember how at peace you felt listening to even like in CPMAP, Dr. Greg's like, the way that he portrayed actually what it means to be masculine and feminine and what like we're called to in our life, that it isn't black and white, and that there's this space and this flexibility to yes, become more feminine myself, and yes, Adrian, become more masculine. But the fact that we're not there yet doesn't mean, that we're doing something wrong necessarily. But I think that's one area.
That's a huge area. I'm so glad you're bringing that up, because I wasn't even thinking that we would go necessarily to that point, but this is a massive gap in understanding in the church, in the the lowercase c church, and the way that people talk about our masculinity and femininity. And it's really, really sad. It's devastating, actually, how horribly misdirected most Catholics are, who teach and who are responsible for understanding the relationship between man and woman.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had St. John Paul II's feast day, and I was thinking about, his line, I don't remember it verbatim, but basically like the world is dependent on and will go in the way in which of which man and what man means to woman and what woman means to man. Like what man means to woman and what woman means to man dictates the direction of the world. And it's like, it's such a profound statement. And it's far too simple of a statement to impact the way I think we really need to be impacted by it. And it deserves deep meditation. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this with, really in every facet of life. The most obvious being the recent manifestation of this complete disorientation of transgenderism.
Mm-hmm.
But even getting deeper into, all the ideas behind, what's wrong with Islamic ideology, and when people talk about Sharia law, and then and that's another facet of it. And then we talk about disparity in the workforce. It's like on and on. We could go on and on. And all of these issues, it's like everything comes back to what man is for woman and what woman is for man. And when we don't recognize the fact that most people are walking around with deep wounds and suspicion about the other, so that woman is a threat to man and man is a threat to woman. And that is what woman is to man and man is to woman for the most part in most people's minds. Is that what God created us for? Is that what complementarity is meant to be? Is that what it means to be helpmates to each other? And obviously it's not. So restoring a fullness of a vision of man for woman and woman for man is such a deep part of our healing. And so if you're going to be doing, obviously the most specific work of healing marriage and family life, mm-hmm. if you're a marriage and family therapist, but then, literally any other manifestation of accompaniment where you're walking with somebody, it's like you're walking with somebody as a man or a woman, and you have a place in this person's life as a man or a woman. And that's going to be very meaningful. And if you don't understand God's vision for what that actually means, how are we even going to begin to pretend to help them where they are in their life?
Yeah, it's funny. I think legitimately a couple weeks ago as we were having part of this conversation, which, by the way, I don't think we would have been even remotely close to that conversation 4 years ago. Sure, 1 year into our marriage, that's not surprising, I don't think, right? But I said something to the effect. It was like, hey, are we looking at this from complementarity, or are we fragmented right now? And then I rolled my eyes at myself. I was like, oh, we're in it. We're in it. But it's so amazing to have a common language, first of all, and a common understanding. But I feel like between the study, I mean the whole process, the study, of being accompanied, and I had the, actually what I realize now is the good fortune of being supervised. I had a male supervisor, and then switched over to a female supervisor, and I needed some aspects of reparenting from both sides, and saw like the same, like we've talked about, the same aspects of something feminine coming from the masculine, and masculine coming from the feminine, but experiencing them in two different ways. But I also gained so much comfort in the fact that I have actually experienced that in my life as well. And both of my parents were actually, as far as the basics, there was no work of the house that wasn't interchangeable. I always just kind of shrugged my shoulders at that. And I also, I think initially, even when we had that conversation, of course I took that a little personally and had to acknowledge, like, oh no, that hurts a little bit. I have calluses on my hands from pull-ups. I go, I rough it, and I like to do a bunch of manly things, but there's also, I had that thought while learning, like, I've been in a lot of female dominated fields. Like, most of my coworkers have been women. Most of my coworkers have, the high performing ones, and all of that. Yeah, like those were some things I didn't experience, but I also saw within that so much peace in that idea of, like, yeah, yes, you can learn from your wife how it is that you can become more yourself through taking on some of those aspects of her femininity, but your masculinity grows within that. And I was actually surprised by number one, it was lovely to have the conversation when it was done and come out on the other side with just the sense of, like, hey, look, we both have learned very clearly that we have been wounded and we have been hurt. But we can tangibly point to things where I have learned from you and you have learned from me. And in some ways, like, we have become more complete on that. It's an okay word to say, right? On that spectrum of, like, humanity, and continue to grow in our fullness of our masculine and feminine qualities. And to learn that is sort of okay, and that is actually something that we're destined for. It gives me so much peace. Again, once the dust settles and you can take some time to sit with it and pray with it, and even just have the common language of just saying, hey, a part of me is upset about this. Like, it's not me. It's not the whole of me. It's just these wounded parts, and we can give those attention. And as a couple, I just don't know how people do it. I don't know how people do it without some of these tools. I don't.
Well, does anything come to mind in terms of, you said tangible examples of sort of where this played out? Does anything come to mind specifically?
Tangible examples of,
like, where your masculinity has grown as a result of sort of taking on some of your wife's femininity?
Well, when we first got married, even just getting married was an act of faith for me. I just said, look, I'm scared of this. I'm scared of this, but I just know. I know that this is for me, and I know that this is the person for me. There were a lot of fears that I had about potentially the kind of parent I might become because of the family wounds. So I think if there's anything I could say to to like new dads is like you grow into it. You also grow into it from watching your wife. I wasn't sure like how tender I would want to be with my kids. I thought I would want to be like a disciplinarian and like my, having this weird thought of like there's just certain things that won't happen. But like watching Shay, just cherish our children and sacrifice for them, um, and just at times go through hell willingly, still suffering through it, and that made me realize like, hey, you know what, I can do this too. But there's a heroic aspect of that femininity there. I want to do this too for my kids. I want to do this too for my family. It may look different than it does. Look, I doubt I'm gonna get, a job, in the oil industry drilling wells or whatever, right? Like that's not probably gonna happen. However, there are ways in which I feel both protective and but also soft toward my children that um, I didn't know if I would be capable of. Um, and I have definitely seen that grown, but in that sense too, I've just been like, no, I actually I feel way more capable than I did. And if it looks different, oh well, that's okay. It's supposed to. I'm supposed to change. So
Yeah, and
That's really beautiful.
I think there's
Go ahead.
an aspect of like the masculinity of growing into like it takes courage and bravery to allow yourself as a man to be soft, right? To say like, oh, actually maybe that harsh punitive approach that I was familiar with isn't the right one, but it actually takes an incredible amount of courage to try something different and to step into something different. And I think like on the flip side of the coin, I have parts that want to be more, or that think I'm supposed to be treated with more like of a punitive approach. And so when I like, this is pretty fresh, but I was really sick last week and therefore had a little capacity for my sweet little toddlers. And there were parts of me that showed up and came out that I was like, I should not be accepted. Like I should be like punished or yelled at or told like I'm being ridiculous or whatever it might be. And Adrian embraced me in those moments, and he loved me, which like doesn't seem like the initial masculine approach, but it is like what is more masculine than like protecting and wrapping your arms around, your hurting wife. And I think for me too, that allowed me to step out of that, like the feeling that I needed to be, like, yeah, like showing up in that harsh way, that allowed me to soften into my femininity, actually, from his masculinity. Yeah, I think sometimes as you're like living into marriage and experiencing some of these things, it's just, it surprises me the ways that, like masculinity and femininity actually show up and how they interrelate with one another. It isn't always.
Yeah, it's a really amazing point. I think if you look at how, within therapy and within mentorship, we talk about there's like these two dimensions. We talk about having one foot on the shore, one foot in the water, but the one foot in the water is meant to represent rapport, empathy, being with, aligning, and then the one foot on the shore is like we need some stability. And if listeners haven't heard this before, it's like if somebody's drowning in the water and you need to reach in to help them, like you have to get 1 foot wet, put 1 foot in the water, but you can't jump into 2 feet. Otherwise you're going to drown also. And you can't really help them if you keep both feet on the shore. So 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the shore. The foot on the shore represents stability, structure, a little bit of separation. And also looks like challenge sometimes. And so it's a great example you just gave, because it's like, on one hand, it's like, oh, that's so warm and tender and empathic. But actually what you were saying was, I screwed up, I'm bad, I need to be punished. It's like aligning with that would be like, yeah, you're so bad. It's actually, it takes the ability for separation to say, no, you're wrong. You actually deserve compassion. It's kind of challenging. It's like you have to be, you're kind of entering into a fight. You know, it's like, I'm going to fight with you right now because what you actually deserve is tenderness. And so it's not just going along with what the other person is saying. Like, I know there's been times I have sometimes a very similar dynamic with my wife, and she'll like fight back. And it's like, you got to go through a little bit of a little tussle because it's like, no, you just don't understand. Like, this is whatever. And it's like, no, you don't understand. It's like you actually deserve tenderness and compassion right now. So it's a little odd, but it has the both dimensions, like you're saying. And we all do have the capacity for operating out of both dimensions, but we do ultimately, or I say initially, learn each from each other, and that's how we become better versions of ourselves.
And but not to make no mistake about it. I think the first thing I want to say is that I think I've only learned to become capable of that because it has been given to me, and Shay has given that to me in the past when I just wanted to hide. I just wanted to just be alone or suffer silently. In handfuls of things, receiving that, in mentorship as well, and being able to take a beat or 10 beats or whatever it is, and also realize like I have some of those same wounded parts. I might react similarly as Shay did in a situation like that. I think I might think in that moment that you are kind of right. You are being kind of nuts. Like you're right. Like okay, absolutely. I might be on that same team. There's just no sugarcoating it. Like I have learned to stop, to look at what's happening in me, observe what's happening in me, to stop and pray and ask for the strength, because that's not my initial instinct. And then realize, okay, like I need to provide safety and support and strength in this moment and give that to her. And I think about that and I'm like, what is stronger and more masculine than the restraint and the strength, and to give someone truly what they need, rather than, hey, it would be pretty easy to yell and throw a fit and get pretty, typical aggressive. That would feel default familiar. But something different is needed. So something else will be provided to her and to me.
That's beautiful. What I'm curious, what now, if you, just to shift a little bit and deeper into the work, like when you're walking with people and you see their different weaknesses, wounds, different things come up, what's that like, kind of relating it back to your own experience? Or, do you feel yourselves creating a separation where it's like you have to, obviously it's kind of both, right? It's foot in, foot out. It's like on some level, even our own alignment in our own experience is a foot in, foot out. But where do you see that showing up for the people that you walk with? Like, speak generally.
Yeah. I think I have the great privilege of walking with several other moms at a similar stage in their motherhood, with littles running around and just the chaos and busyness of that time, and the difficulty of like remembering that you're your own person still, when your life feels very consumed by keeping a bunch of toddlers alive and creating a safe space for them. I think in those moments, as like a mentor, there is, of course, the part of me that wants to be like, yes, me too, I get it. And being mindful of that and being able to step, like it is critical, to be able to separate yourself in that moment, because just because I have a similar experience and I can relate, like, yes, that person, deserves a normalization, like what you're experiencing is normal, and you're not alone in that, but it's not enough always to just get that, right? You also need guidance, like what do I do? And I think for me, it can be a temptation to assume what they need is what I need, and to try and provide that. And it is a work in itself as a person providing mentorship to step back and say, like, actually, like, can I be curious about, this person and their experience and their wounds and their, like what has led them to this point, rather than assuming, that they just need to, like, I don't know, like, find a friend, to support them. Like maybe that's not what they need. Maybe they need something entirely different, even though that maybe that's what I would need in that situation. But being able to enter into their experience, like put mine to the side, even though I can relate, but to step into their world in that way is, yeah, I think it's what we all need, is to know that our experience is unique, and it is, it's something that somebody's willing to enter into, rather than just like projecting themselves on you.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I recently had an experience where just even in supervision, I had that experience of being a little too personally wrapped up and frustrated and thinking that I really just wanted to help. And this isn't, let's just simplify it to the fact where what I realized is, hey, maybe right now actually you're really sad because they're sad, but like you're feeling your own sadness. And it is sort of the same thing that Shay said, is it's like, okay, well, right, what's going on inside of me? Am I here for am I just reacting out of myself, or am I with this other person? And quite frankly, the thing that I have found so helpful is that idea of the tenderness, and trying to really both feel, but really honestly just pray to really enter into that person's experience, and to be guided enough to really like authentically walk with them. I mean, everything from just even like visualizing it really helps. And I've definitely seen even recently a real difference. And at the same time, I think sometimes it's also really helpful to not get too swept up in breakthroughs and in progress and comfort, because sometimes a new thing comes up, and you can get blindsided, and you truly do develop a care for the people that you work with, that you walk with. And it can really knock you off sort of your axis if you're not constantly aware of what is me and what is this other person. It's like you're constantly maintaining actually a sense of boundary within that process.
Yeah, and you mentioned what's, I think, also so critical to that process, which is supervision. Mm-hmm. And how it strikes me, it's so profound how many times, like how deeply people are impacted by the supervision. I've had other therapists that have worked for us in the past and moved on to start their own practices and things like that, and they're like, I'll never be able to recreate the value of this ongoing supervision. And it's probably one of the most valuable things that we offer. And it's one of the most it's a very subtle distinction from what we do from anywhere else, but I think it's probably the most important, if I can say that. It comes out of our Catholic integration. So I was going to say it's probably, I mean, the fact that we're so integrated in a Catholic anthropology is obviously really important, but it's like, practically speaking, having practitioners have ongoing supervision, hours of supervision, 3 to 4 hours a week, ongoing from the top down, regardless of how many years you've been certified and practicing. And it doesn't matter if you're licensed. It doesn't matter if you're a training director, or it doesn't matter if you're the owner of the company. We are literally all in 3 to 4 hours of supervision a week. Because how could you possibly see every blind spot and every moment where that kind of attunement happens? Like, that is so normal. That's so human to feel sad and frustrated when you're up front, up close and personal with people's trauma and challenges and burdens. And of course we're relating them to like, how could you not relate them to yourself? But then to pretend like, oh yeah, we don't need supervision anymore because now I'm graduated, now I'm licensed, now I've already done my hours, now whatever. It's like, so what? Now you're just not. Now you're not going to be having blind spots to where you might be taking on too much or personalizing it too much, or you might have some countertransference or some projection, it's like, it's crazy to me. So it's awesome that you're sharing what you're sharing, because number one, it takes a lot of vulnerability and courage to just even be open about that. But number two, it also just like builds a bridge to a lot of people who are doing this kind of work. I mean, accompanying others. And when you're not in the mental health field, teachers or even like ministry, youth ministers, people who work at the parish, or even the physical health sciences, doctors, physicians. It's like, these are all different forms of accompaniment where you definitely de facto end up bearing emotional burdens of others. But when you don't have that construct and structure in place to know where to bring it, it becomes really overwhelming. And I just spoke at the teachers conference called Duke and Altum, and I did a whole workshop on burnout and overwhelm. And it's because teachers don't look for ways in which they're bearing others' burdens in an intentional way. They end up getting swept into it. And of course, the more burdens the kids are bringing in, which today is pretty overwhelming, the more they're going to be burned out and overwhelmed. So we are here intentionally looking for where that's happening, intentionally providing the support and resources around it, and actually requiring it so that you go week by week actually having these things held with you while you're holding it for other people. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's it's awesome to be vulnerable at that level and be really authentic.
Yeah, I think that that's particularly one of the reasons why, or that is the reason why I transferred from my first, the university I was attending first for my master's program. What I was seeing in the education was a real lack of like structure and framework. And there was like, I think one of the professors said, you can choose whatever theory you want to practice out of, but ultimately it's what you believe is right about the person, or what you believe is going to heal the person, and where like you want to lead them. And I was like, no, that can't be true, because I'm very broken. Like I don't know what's right for myself most of the time. Like, how could I possibly know in myself like what's right for another person? Like I need more structure. I crave more structure. I crave more of a framework. I need to know that like I'm leading somebody to like what is actually their ultimate destiny, not what I think their ultimate destiny is. And so I think that, yeah, at CatholicPsych, that having that Catholic and anthropological like groundwork is huge, but then also the ongoing structure of like supervision and having somebody there, between like the whole group, and then individually to make sure, you're not getting wrapped around your own spokes and getting caught up in
Yes.
your own woundedness.
And both of us are actually very, very independent. You can do it on your own, maybe even leaning towards you have to do it on your own. We have those parts. And I've always known it a little bit, but I've experienced it so much through supervision. That challenge to ask for help. And you know what? Even that challenge to just share what you think you did well, and even more so, like I also want to hear from you if you feel like you have no idea. Before you open up, every resource that you've ever had and try to just figure it out and present as like competent or whatever. I'm here. I'm here to offer this support. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be that hard. And it's kind of amazing also how much that continues to be a dynamic in our marriage now. We're constantly reminding one another, and how hard that still can be. Be like, hey, what do you need? I'll help. I'm here to help you. And it's still amazing how much both of us want to fight against it sometimes. Like, I got it. It's like, well, let
so
us be the
astounding.
helpmates.
I mean, when we have so many years, I mean, the number of years I've had in therapy, in training, in formation. I mean, I had almost 4 years of religious life formation. I went through novitiate. I spent 5 hours a day in prayer for many years, for multiple years, 3.5 years. And I had spiritual direction from Father Benedict Rochelle. It's like, my resume reads pretty awesome. And when I still am sitting there assuming that my wife is out to get me, in the middle of some conversation where I can't see past my own blind spot, and I don't realize that I'm still operating out of narratives that are from a wounded childhood in various ways. It's like, holy cow, this is hard. Like, how is this for like people who didn't have 3.5 years of formation in religious life with Father Benedict Rochelle? It's like, no wonder people are suffering. And what a blessed life to be able to share in that. Number one, out of our own weaknesses and vulnerability, and just the humility of still slopping along here, and doing our lousy best, as Father Benedict used to say, and then also actually being able to help other people. It's really beautiful. And so I was thinking about I mentioned before, talking about Thanksgiving. I know this is not very easy to do, but if we could think about people in general who are having a lot of these things surfacing around the holidays, what are some of the helpful sort of strategies and tips you guys think? We're switch from like depth psychology and like deep mentorship accompaniment to like a catchy blog title, like 5 top ways to save your Thanksgiving. Like, what are some just basic ground rules that we can help people live by?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a blog title. It doesn't have to be 5 either.
Yeah, I think that can be the trickiest thing. I think what I first want to say is, being mindful ahead of time, of like, as you're thinking about the holidays, what's already like happening for you? Like, are you anxious? Are you excited? Like, and getting curious about, what that is. Like, is it that you're going to have to talk to your dad or your aunt or your uncle, whoever it is that's stirring the fear, that's prompting that fear, just getting really curious at first about like, okay, what am I actually afraid of? And and then once you're able to identify that, like, if you don't have somebody to bring it to, if you don't have a mentor or, somebody to walk with you in that, like, it'd be great if you did, somebody who could offer you something different or help you understand that situation in a new light. But if you don't, like, just sit with that part yourself and take, with gentleness and compassion towards your own, the ways that this person or, these relationships have hurt you in the past. And I think so often we get caught
Now,
up.
what if people do that? Like, what if somebody's been doing that a lot? Like, that's kind of their problem. Like, they think too much about it. They can't stop sort of ruminating and stressing out about the problem. How could we do something differently? Like a different way to approach it?
I think number one, I actually did a little blog post about this a little while ago. I think one of the big takeaways that I had is this idea that, look, if you're just reading this blog right now, I think it's reasonable to also say that this next holiday may not be ideal. And you know what? That's okay. Like it may not be perfect. It may not even be great, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way forever. But even if you go into it with the idea of, okay, things can change, but they may not change right now. The other thing that I talk about is that it's really tempting, I think, getting into the boundaries thing and just saying, the holidays are coming up. I'm going to make a list of my boundaries and I'm going to establish them. I'm going to set them up and I'm going to tell everyone what my boundaries are. That should fix it. And without getting too much into the weeds right now, the thing that really did it for me or set a really good baseline for me was that, like, boundaries are not the magic bullet. The boundaries are a result of peace and knowing your own dignity, and they're not necessarily like the means of achieving them. Like, they are the fruit. So that's one thing.
Such an important point, I think, and that, yeah, just to kind of almost bring together both the points you're making here. It's like, what I find is people have a really deep misunderstanding on boundaries, and it's like people think boundaries are about external standards they're setting and limits and ultimatums. It's like, if you do this, then I'm going to do this, or if you do this, you're not allowed over anymore. If you do this, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, those are ultimatums. Those are not boundaries. Boundaries are actually almost, I won't say the opposite, but can be the opposite of that. And a real boundary is very simply understanding, what am I responsible for and what am I not responsible for? And I think that is such a journey for people to take, that it takes time. And I think, to your point, it's like, if you're just hearing that now for the first time, you're probably not going to get it perfectly this go around on this holiday. But at least plant the seed to start thinking about, what am I actually responsible for? Is somebody else upset with me? Is that something I am responsible for? Did I not follow through on the plans or make everybody happy in the plans that that they expected or wanted, and therefore now everybody's upset with me? Okay, is that your fault? Well, it depends. Did you show up and torch somebody's Thanksgiving Day table? Or did you simply say, we just had a new baby and we're not traveling this holiday? It's like, what, balanced out. It's like, let's be reasonable about this. But if somebody's upset with you because you just had a baby and you're not traveling, then that's not your responsibility. You took care of your responsibility. So it's that's actually what boundaries are. And it's surprising when people are like, well, this is a toxic relationship. I have to set a boundary. I'm not answering the phone anymore. I'm going to ghost that person. I can't return a text. I can't get involved. I can't get into the conversation. It's like maybe the conversation keeps blowing up because you feel like it's your job to make the other person think differently than they think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, that's
to start dismantling those ideas.
Yeah, that's a big part of. We're still very much in the works of creating a kind of group programming course, leading people through this process exactly. Is like first, being honest about what did happen to you, like having that insight and that knowledge of the ways that you are wounded. But I think especially in today's Instagram therapy culture, like that's where a lot of the conversation stops is just around like generating insight and compassion towards the way you were wounded. But if we stop there, then we do kind of get stuck in that like spinning out, spiraling, ruminating and not knowing how to move forward and feeling really helpless in that, but stepping into that next level of like, okay, yeah, what is your responsibility? And like, what are you going to do with what you're aware of now? And like, are you being honest about like what you said, like your own contribution to that, as an adult now, as somebody who isn't a child, like what can you do? Like, is there anything that you have to take ownership for, or, can you set that boundary that isn't limiting somebody else's freedom, but is just saying like, I am, or I'm not going to allow this behavior or this, attitude, or not attitude, but in my life.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that particularly came to mind to me too was that additional step of mercy, and yeah, again, couple weeks before the holidays, starting to work on mercy. You'll only get so far, right? And I will say I'll plug Catholic mindfulness, because I will say that the mercy exercise, I even remember the moment how it kind of blew my mind and my heart open at the grocery store. I'm a very judgmental part, and it used to sometimes it would take me, I pride myself like I can be kind of harsh or whatever, but 20 minutes later I get there, um for myself it took me a whole lot longer to get there. But having that feeling of like just looking at these people around me and experiencing a sense of desiring mercy for all of them, and then realizing, oh my gosh, it will take me a while to continue to extend this to the people nearest to me and to the people near me that I have lost, and it's going to take a while, and like that is okay. But the sense of, just anyone who's on the fence about the Catholic mindfulness, just plug through it. It's it was an effort. It was an effort for me, and we'll do it again, and it will be an effort again then. But particularly that sense of like, look, if I can, okay, I can already hold that like people operate out of their wounds. That's already a big deal, because that same uncle who tries to get you to vote for someone else wants to really be heard, right? He has not been heard, or he may not really believe that he's correct unless he sees tangible proof of it outside of himself, and he's never getting it. You may not get that. Okay, but we can get the compassion. All right, we get that. But to learn that there's yet another step to offer mercy to that, and the level that like allows you to let that go and offer true mercy. Like I said, like it's a process that I'm still working on and going through. And so just know that it's possible, but it takes time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a pretty solid place to land, I think. I mean, mercy really is everything. And that's, that's one of the things I think that it will bring us to the deepest peace possible in the moment, no matter how messy the circumstances are. And when we have mercy on ourselves, compassion towards ourselves for all the different parts of reactions that we have, and then we can extend it to the people around us and realize that we're all just we're all schlepping along, doing our lousy best, and probably all have lots of ways to grow. And so you guys are offering mentorship, obviously. I'll give you a plug here, even though you're not here to self promote, but we'll put a link into the notes here for a calendar for you guys for people to schedule a consultation. As long as you're available for that, I'll put that in the notes. And then you have a podcast that you're starting, but you don't have an official title yet. So I'm going to not say the name, but once we have it, we'll put it in the notes. Because I think people would love to hear a married mental health mentorship couple. Maybe you could call it the Married Mental Health Mentorship Show. I know you
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. But whatever it is, it's going to be great. And we'll put that in the notes.
Not quite yet. Yeah.
All right. I figured I'd try, but maybe we'll come up with some other ones.
We'll workshop it. Who knows?
You workshop that. Yeah. It's all right. I can take rejection. It's okay. But we'll put it in the notes, whatever it ends up being, and people could find you there. I'm really grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your yes to join me on this adventure and to bring it to so many more people, and to just be such shining examples of what integration can really look like and how it can help people. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. God bless you.
With you.
Thanks for listening to the Being Human podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to help us spread the word and hear more, please head over to iTunes, leave us a review, and subscribe, as it really helps us to get our content out to more people. Be sure to listen next time as I take you deeper into what it means to be human. If you want more free content and information about what we do at the Catholic Psych Institute, head on over to CatholicPsych.com. God bless you.